I'm going to start with just 3 different note values, and we'll start with their names. The first one will be a whole note. The second one will be a half note. And the third one will be a quarter note. So the whole note symbol looks a little bit like a hole. The half note symbol is a very similar note head, but it also has a stem. And the quarter note looks very much like the half note, but the head is filled in. It also has a stem. It's worth also learning the equivalent rest values. So where we have a whole note, there's an equivalent whole note rest. And that has a line and a kind of brick shape hanging from that line. The half note is just the opposite. It has the same line, but the brick is sitting on top. And then the quarter note symbol is a bit like a 3, but with a little squiggle at the end. So the first thing I think is to remember these note and rest value names, and also to physically draw these out. By drawing things out, it really helps the information to go in. And you can start actually by just drawing these note and rest values on a single line. If I place a quarter note on this line, it's important that the line I'm writing on goes through the center of the note head. And that's the same for the half note and also for the whole note. If I want to write a quarter note rest, that roughly goes in the center of that line. For instruments that are non-specific pitch, let's say percussion instruments, typically like side drum, woodblock, cowbell, the music for those instruments only requires a single line because the pitch is unchanging. The pitch is always the same, it's not getting higher or lower. So for those kind of instruments, it's acceptable just to use a single line to write the rhythm on. For other instruments that have definite pitch, like violin, flute, guitar, we need to use a stave. And the stave is those 5 lines that we see music written on. And when you then place note values on that stave, there are certain rules that we need to stick to. The first thing is, if I take this quarter note and I want to write it, let's say, low down on the stave, and I'm going to put it on a line, the stem belongs on the right hand side. If I want to write a quarter note higher up, let's say in this top space here, then the stem belongs on the left hand side. And that's very consistent as a general rule in music. The same thing is true of the half note. If the half note is high up, the stem belongs on the left. And if the half note is lower down, the stem belongs on the right. And you get used to seeing that when you read music, and it would look wrong to have the stems on the other side. Same thing is true with the quarter note rest. It can go roughly in the middle of that stave. But there are slightly different rules when it comes to whole and half note rests. So let me just show you that. There's a very specific space in which the whole and half note rests belong, and it's the second space down. So if I'm writing a whole note rest, the line goes there and the brick hangs into that space. And if I'm writing a half note rest, the line goes here and the brick sits in that same space. Now there's not much more we can really do. We can't start writing rhythm in a meaningful way until these note and rest values are understood. So spend some time just writing these out and enjoy writing them out. Get some manuscript paper and practice writing all the note values and all the rest values on that stave. And then we move forward.